Welcome to Vintage Point with Rechavili Maputsi on the 360 Experience. Tonight in the Primetime Stories, U.S. House Committee advances bills to review U.S.-South African ties and target sanctions. Calls grown for KZN police chief to expose corruptions in parliamentary probe. South Africa's inflation ticks up to 3% as food increase squeeze budgets. All this and more on the 360 Experience.
What Zuma did took our country and handing over back to the good guys.
A new bill pushing for a major reassessment of U.S.-South African relations has cleared a key hurdle in the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee. The U.S.-South African Bilateral Relationship Reviews Act of 2025, with 34 to 16 votes, backed by 28 Republicans and 16 Democrats. With only Democrats voting against it, the legislation now heads to the full House, where it's expected to gain approval. The bill calls for the Trump administration to evaluate whether South Africa's actions undermine U.S. national security or foreign policy. It also proposed sections under Global Magnitsky Act targeting South Africa's government officials and ANC leaders accused of corruption or human rights violation. These sanctions could include visa bans and financial restrictions, signaling heightened scrutiny of bilateral relationship.
Potentially seismic changes for the US-South Africa relationship. This bill is recommending a comprehensive review of the bilateral relationship and accusing South Africa of brazenly abandoning the relationship with the US and aligning with terrorist organizations. It was suggested by Congressman Ronnie Jackson, who celebrated Tuesday's victory of it passing through the committee hearing by saying the days of allowing our so-called allies to walk all over us are over. The US government could potentially determine if senior government officials and ANC leaders in South Africa have been involved in corruption and human rights abuses. And if they determine so, they would then impose sanctions on certain individuals, and that would include travel bans and asset freezes. At heart, really, the US is unhappy that South Africa has taken Israel to the International Criminal Court over war crimes and accused it of genocide for its involvement in Gaza. The US is also angry that South Africa really is siding with the Palestinian people against the US ally Israel.
South Africa's inflation rate climbed slightly to 3% in June, up from 2.8% in May, driven by rising costs for meat and vegetables. While still well within South Africa's Reserve Bank's 3% to 6% target range, the uptick is putting pressure on the household's budget. This marks the first inflation increase in 2 months, raising questions about Reserve Bank's next move. All eyes are now on the Monetary Policy Committee's meeting on the 31st July 2025, where potential interest rates could be on the table to ease economic strain.
Consumer inflation is at its highest in 4 months. However, it remains below the midpoint of the Reserve Bank's target bracket, indicative that inflation remains contained. Food price inflation rose to the highest level in 16 months at 4.7% in June, up from 4.4% in May. Prices of fruits and nuts, vegetables and hot beverages remain elevated. The prices of meat, in particular beef, processed foods and oil and fats, also remain high. Agricultural economist Wandile Sihlobo says the outbreak of animal diseases could be to blame for the price increases in the meat category, avian flu in Brazil and foot and mouth disease here at home.
At some point over the past few months, we saw that Brazil, which is one of the key suppliers of poultry products into South Africa, had avian influenza, and that led to a temporary ban of Brazilian poultry products into South Africa. That caused a little bit of anxiety in the market as people were worried about the supplies. The second aspect is the foot and mouth disease, which also caused a little bit of a panic in the market, and I think that led to some form of a panic buying. But both of those factors are now somewhat well managed. For example, South Africa has resumed the imports of poultry products from Brazil. We see the major feedlots have started slaughtering, and every time when we are struggling with foot and mouth disease, we are usually restricted from exporting the red meat.
Democratic Alliance leader John Steenhuisen has hailed the passage of the Government of National Unity's first budget as a fair deal, struck after intense negotiations. Just weeks ago, Steinhezem threatened to derail the budget unless President Cyril Ramaphosa addresses concerns of 2 ministers. The recent dismissal of Higher Educational Minister Nobuhle Nkabani, less than 48 hours before the budget vote, has been claimed as a DA victory. Despite this win, the DA remains firm on skipping the upcoming national dialogue, signaling ongoing tensions within the coalition as they navigate their shared governance. Political parties are rallying behind a push investigation alleged corruption within South Africa's police force, urging KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to reveal key details. On Wednesday, the National Assembly reviewed a report from police and justice committees, unanimously endorsing the creation of an ad hoc committee to dig into the claims. Umkhondo wesizwe MK Party MP Sibonelo Nomvula emphasized the need of Mkhwanazi's testimony to uncover a full extent of police corruption, as party demand accountability and transparency to the investigations. Kabani Nchalinchali, a 40-year-old man accused of murdering Ekurhuleni forensic auditor Mpomafule, appeared in court on Wednesday. Authorities have now connected him with another high-profile case, the 2023 killing of a popular Captain Park DJ Bongani Mfihlo, who was shot outside a nightclub. Nchalinchali, already facing trials for Mfihlo's murder from 12 August to the 19th, was out on 5,000 bail when he was arrested for Mafule's death. The National Prosecution Authority argues that his action shows he is unfit for a bail in the latest case, as the courts prepare to tackle these serious charges.
Okay.
That was all with Retabile Maputsi on the Vintage Point on the 360 experience. Make sure that you like and share. For more updates, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Goodbye.
What Zuma did took our country and handing over back to the good guys.